Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday. It is Friday Junior, folks. Welcome, everybody. Michael Hasser, Derry Bennett, Heat, how's it going, everybody? Thank you all for joining. Sorry about that, folks. Alrighty. Sorry, I had to run back upstairs and get my very important sparkling water. Sup, welcome. Alright, folks, we got a few things to go through. Before we get started, don't forget, folks, if you're on the YouTube, keep liking the stream, okay? I see you. Thank you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you guys want to keep supporting the channel, there are many different ways of doing so, and you can also check out the merch store by hitting !merch. You can also join the Discord, !Discord, and there is and you can join a fun, awesome, cozy community. We do once a month movie nights, so feel free to join. That's right, subscribe to the YouTube. Alright, folks. Gotta get started. Today's gonna be a to the point stream, so let's get this started. I think we should probably start here. Heat. Welcome.
So back in January, Utah's Republican Governor Spencer Cox, this weirdo pictured behind me, signed HB 257 into law, which is a transphobic bill that polices the bathroom usage of trans people and prohibits them from using the bathroom of the gender identity that they identify with. Now, of course, this was passed under the pretense of...
Yeah, also, like, just to be clear, this essentially polices the bathroom for everybody, right? Because, like, how are you supposed to just sit there and read the minds of everybody that goes to the bathroom? No, that's not how that works.
Of protecting women from men invading their spaces, but it literally does the opposite, because if TikTok and Instagram influencer Leo McCallan, for example, known as the Gravel Bro, decided to go to Utah and he visited the Salt Lake City airport, he would be forced to use the women's bathroom. Why? Well, because he's a trans guy. That dude is now forced to use the women's bathroom because Republicans say that's where he should be. So much for keeping men out of women's spaces. Good job, Republicans. Bravo. But all of this hysteria over bathrooms, it doesn't just affect trans people. It also affects cis people too sometimes, because one woman actually shared a traumatizing experience that she had while she was in Las Vegas, where she was followed into the bathroom and harassed by a woman who thought that she was a man. But she wasn't. She was a cis woman just trying to use the bathroom, minding her own business, but because she had a short haircut, a pixie haircut, the transvestigator in question is...
Yeah, also, like, hey, here's like a pro tip, okay? Mind your business when you go to the freaking bathroom, man. That's so freaking weird. That's so freaking weird to like harass to harass somebody going to the freaking bathroom. Holy yikes. Jesus.
Assumed that she was a guy going into the bathroom to perv on women. So these kinds of bathroom bills are idiotic because they foster that type of behavior, this climate of paranoia. And on top of that, they're also incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to enforce, because how do you determine that people are using the bathroom that they're supposed to be using?
Right. Like that's exactly my point. They would have to sit there and give an inspection to everybody that enters the bathroom, right? Yeah. Hashtag freedom to pee. Exactly.
Are you going to check their IDs when they need to shit? Inspect their genitals? Like, how exactly do you enforce this? Now, Utah thinks that they came up with a solution, and that right there is going to be the focus of this particular video today, because the law officially went into effect on May 1st, and predictably, it has been a complete and total disaster, which is, you know, what I think most people could have told you. Hence why I said predictably, but I guess they're surprised. Like, we've got some surprised Pikachu faces in Utah today after seeing the disaster that they created. But first, here's how the law works. So the Salt Lake City Tribune reports, quote, "The law goes on to require the state auditor's office to establish a process to receive and investigate alleged violations of this chapter by a government entity and then notify that entity. If the violation isn't resolved, the auditor is required to refer the issue to the Utah Attorney General's office, which can then impose fines up to $10,000 per violation per day." And as a result, Utah Auditor John Dougal created an online reporting tool to comply with Morgan Republican Representative Kira Birkeland's sex-based designations for privacy, anti-bullying, and women's opportunities, or HB 257. In other words, they created a snitch line. So that
Right, exactly. That's exactly why that emote exists.
normal people can LARP as hall monitors and make sure that trans people aren't using the bathrooms that they're not supposed to be using. And if that's the case, they can report them. They can call the manager of trans people, which is apparently the Utah Auditor's Office. But I mean, is this not incredibly creepy? Because as Utah State Senator Jennifer Plume put it, apparently Utah's solution to people feeling unsafe in restrooms is to encourage folks to take photos of and focus extreme attention on the private parts of others who are taking care of a biological need to eliminate waste.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Also, like, can we just take a second to, like, walk through the fact that, like, these conservatives felt the need to create a hotline where you can essentially tell on your trans neighbors, so to speak, so that the government can then come in and impose, you know, the fines or whatever for going to the wrong restroom. Yeah. If they're willing to do that, for policing, in the efforts to police the bathroom, something tells me that they would be perfectly comfortable making lists for other things as well, if you catch my drift.
What could possibly go wrong? I know, right? The implication is that this law was needed because trans people are supposedly bathroom predators, and they pose a risk to women and people around them. But this law could actually embolden real predators who can pretend like they're just investigating a suspected trans person using the wrong bathroom if they're caught peeping. So this law wasn't just passed under false pretenses. It is going to unironically make people feel less safe in the bathroom in Utah because of the way that it was written. And I don't know that you can write.
It's almost like every time it ends up being the case that these Republicans just end up in only what, 3 categories: either being the groomers or predators, protecting the groomers and predators, two camps. Either being the groomers or predators, or protecting the groomers or predators. It never fails.
This in a way that makes people feel safe, but the goal is to be transphobic, and mission accomplished. But the snitch line has been open for about a week, and I want you to take a wild guess as to how it's been going so far. Just take a guess. How do you think it's been working out for them?
Phenomenally, I bet.
Well, as AP explains, transgender activists have flooded the Utah tip line created to alert state officials to possible violations of a new bathroom law with thousands of hoax reports in an effort to shield trans residents and their allies from any legitimate complaints that could lead to an investigation. The onslaught has led the state official tasked by law with managing the tip line, Utah Auditor John Dougal, to bemoan getting stuck with the cumbersome task of filtering through fake complaints while also facing backlash for enforcing a law he had no role in passing. Quote, "No auditor goes into auditing so they can be the bathroom monitors," Dougal said Tuesday.
Hey man, you guys freaking chose this, okay? You made this bed, now freaking lie in it.
I think there were much better ways for the legislature to go about addressing their concerns rather than this ham-handed approach. So I love how the auditor of Utah is like, this is my life now. God damn, what did I get myself into? Because he very clearly doesn't support the law, but he is forced to, I guess, go through the snitch line, set up the snitch line, because that's what the legislation or the law now requires. So, yeah, I kind of feel bad for him, but, you know, somebody's got to do the dirty work, bud, and it's unfortunately you, John. Now, we're going to get to some of the specific reports submitted to the snitch line in a moment, but first, I just want to tell you some numbers here that might surprise you. So there were approximately a total of 10,000 individual reports submitted to the snitch line. Now, out of all of those, the number of reports that are actually seemingly legitimate is, wait for it,
Zero.
Zero legitimate reports. And here's just the...
Yeah, he asked for a raise, for real. Yeah, my bad. Okay, so he didn't actually support the bill. So I'll take that comment back, but, whew.
Small taste of some of the reports that were submitted. Someone reported Rick Astley and posted the lyrics to Never Gonna Give You Up. This person just said, "Suck my transgender balls, mad respect, short but sweet, gets the point across, love that." This person submitted lines from the movie Labyrinth. And we've also got a report about Matt Gaetz allegedly following a high school girl into the bathroom.
Quad Bennett, welcome.
This person submitted a complaint about Sarah Huckabee Sanders as a suspected trans male in violation of the bathroom law. This person just attached an image from B-Movie because, yes, you can actually upload images, which is a very bad idea. This person just uploaded a bunch of ROMs for Nintendo games. And listen, if you know Nintendo, they are very protective about their IP. So if they find out that Utah's government has illegal ROMs on their servers, they're going to be pretty pissed and might take legal action. So beware of that, Utah law.
She's a suspected Picasso painting come to life. True trans soul rebel from against me.
Lawmakers. But there is one more complaint that I do want to share with you, and that's my own. And this is actually a serious one. The other ones were trolling. This one's a real one. So I submitted a picture of Kira Birkeland, who's the Republican sponsor of this legislation, because I actually did find her to be in violation of this law. Specifically, at the Salt Lake City airport, I heard an incredibly loud fart come from... I'm laughing at my own jokes. This is embarrassing. I heard an incredibly loud fart come from the women's bathroom while I was standing outside policing it to ensure no trans person could enter. Subsequently, Kira Birkeland comes walking out, the only person in the women's bathroom at the time. Since it's uncommon for women to have the physiological capacity to fart that loud, I deduced that she must be trans. I then explained how I reasonably attempted to remedy the situation. I confronted her and told her to fart in front of me to prove that it was her asshole the fart allegedly came from. She refused, of course. I didn't explain that, though, but she refused. As for evidence, I wrote that I have a recording of the fart in question, which I do. And if you heard it too, you'd come to the same conclusion that I did, that the fart could not have come from the asshole of somebody assigned female at birth. And then, of course, I signed it as Bussimus Maximus and used my futtbugger69 at AOL.com email.
Phenomenal. Melanie Dennis, welcome. Welcome on YouTube chat. I'm not really into fart jokes. No, this one, this is just pure gold. So only dudes can rip massive earth-shattering farts. Apparently, in this meme world, yes. Welcome, Firefly.
email.
In this absurd, thing that never happened. Yes, apparently.
And I submitted my complaint. Now, I'm sure that John Dougal over at Utah's auditor's office is going to say that I'm just trolling and that's not a real complaint. But John, I know you've seen a lot of illegitimate complaints. That one is legitimate. It's your first real complaint. That is an actual violation. Now, if you also have a legitimate violation, I'll link to that complaint line down below. And I would highly encourage you all to share the very real violations that you submitted in the comment section down below, because I'm anxious to read them. But on a more serious note, do they honestly think that it would end any other way? Like, I'm struggling to imagine them being shocked by this. You know, other states had attempted to do the same thing and got the same exact result. So, I mean, what exactly did they expect? As Aaron Reed explains, in February, Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita released a snitch line to report schools. Instead, it received copies of Godzilla holding a trans flag based. In March of 2023, the Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey launched a website for reporting gender-affirming care clinics. Within a month, the website was taken down after being flooded with the B-movie script. That is so funny to me for some reason. In Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin launched a tip line to report divisive teaching practices. That tip line received very few legitimate reports and instead was flooded by Gen Z for Change activists. The website was taken down quietly at the end of the year. So this has happened in every other state that created a transphobic snitch line. But Utah...
How many times are we going to have to teach you this lesson? I love the spirit of lefties just clowning on the clowns in response. Yep. Meeting hatred with laughter. Exactly, because that's all, like, that, honestly, like, what else did they expect? What else did they expect to happen at this point with such nonsense like this, like trying to unironically police bathrooms? It's funny. That would be a definite lie. Yeah.
Republicans naively thought that they'd get the snitch line that actually succeeded. Amazing. But I honestly don't think that they're that dumb. They may be hateful, but they're not that dumb, right? And the reason why they keep doing this and Republicans keep creating these dumbass tip lines is because there really is no other way to enforce these blatantly discriminatory policies. So it's the only thing that they can do, right? They try to foster paranoia towards the group that they're trying to demonize and turn the public against them, but nobody's buying it, clearly. So it's another fail, but in closing, this law is a pathetic joke that perfectly demonstrates how unserious Utah's state government is. They could be passing laws that address poverty or housing or healthcare or anything that's actually serious, but instead they're trying to get people in their own state to police each other's bathroom usage. How fucking embarrassing.
Sorry. And also, again, like, as I was saying earlier, if these people are willing to, like, make snitch lines where neighbor can snitch on neighbor, just for, like, the simple, like, you know, something so, like, something like using the correct bathroom, then, like, you know that these people would be completely comfortable in making snitch hotlines for other things if they ever got the chance. My middle child, Kitty October, has made it a habit to sit on my lap during the stream. Opportunist. That's a smart cat. I approve. It's it's the best way, I should say, to watch the stream with a kitty cat on your lap.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, despite not having the votes, brought up a motion to vacate Speaker Johnson.
She's so needy otherwise. That's adorable.
Because he passed through Ukraine funding in the supplemental package along with Israel and Taiwan funding. And the fact that he worked with Democrats, even though he has truly the slimmest of majorities humanly possible in the House for the Republican Party, like there's no way he can't with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic governor. Marjorie Taylor Greene lives in fantasy land.
Democratic president, not governor. What about Bob? Bob is outside. He's not outside. He's in the basement. Last chance to see him today. Yes, today will be Bob's last day on stream before he heads off to his new adventure and new life. Funny movie. What about Bob? Welcome to Simulacra. I've never actually watched it. Me neither, to be honest.
Actually, she really lives in I think, like, the joint Slack with Steve Bannon, who's been pushing it before this for sure. She brought up the vote after having threatened to do so for weeks at this point, and it failed. This was her filing this motion for vacate, and it overwhelmingly lost. You can hear the rest of the members start to boo.
I seek recognition to give notice of my...
And one of Bill Murray's funnier movies, from what I remember, though it's been a while. Yeah, I just looked it up. It's from like literally just. It was literally released right around the same time. It was released right around the same time that I was born, more or less. Jesse James, welcome. Give or take.
My intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is
howdy.
As follows. Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant.
I mean, personally, I would be down to watch another circus, but unfortunately it failed. My mom has it on VHS for years because my stepdad's name is Bob, but never have I watched it. Gotcha. There's a throwback VHS.
This is the uniparty for the American people watching.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Order.
Order. Order. The gentlewoman from Georgia is recognized.
Whereas the House Republican Conference elected Mike Johnson on October 25th, 2023, after 3.5 weeks of trying to decide on a new Speaker of the House.
Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
House will be in
This ain't England, true.
order.
Wow, snitch.
I mean, so it's funny. So the only 10 Republicans joined her. Andy Biggs, Eric Burleson, Eli Crane, Warren Davidson, Paul Gosar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, Alex Mooney, Barry Moore, Chip Roy, Victoria Spartz. So you don't really see many of the names that you did the first time around when they successfully vacated Kevin McCarthy. So the lines have been kind of rearranged here. And then there were 7 Democrats that voted present because Hakeem Jeffries wanted to give Mike Johnson like a bit of a carrot or somewhat of a reward for working with them and bucking those people in the party.
They'd be even louder if it was England. Yeah, this is what I was
Say
talking
goodbye
about.
to old, costly cable TV once and for all. This revolutionary invention gives you access to your
You mean
favorite
an
channel.
antenna?
Order! Calm yourself, man! The lion must get back in its den! Order! You're yelling across the chamber! Be quiet! Mr. Jacob, order!
You are overexcitable and you need to contain yourself. It requires you to take some medicament, then so be.
Order, the Honourable Gentleman, order!
This kiss a ginger activity is probably perfectly lawful, but I've got no plans to partake of it myself.
Order. No, you're not moving anything. Resume your seat.
This is aggressively way too British. All right, that's enough.
In passing the supplemental. I wish that they would let Republicans just flounder and all vote against every speaker in unison. But I think Jeffries knew that wasn't going to happen because there were some that had already pledged to do so, like Tom Suozzi and people who want to make it seem like they support government functioning. But this is not over. Marjorie Taylor Greene can do this again. There's still the opportunity because of the agreement that McCarthy made, the devil's bargain to get into power. They can do this motion to vacate again. And Jeffries, to his credit, has said, we're not making any promises on saving you another time. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's just like in an election year to do this. Even Trump, that's the angle that's so funny. Even Trump is telling Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Bannon crew to stand down, but they keep doing it anyway because Trump's worried it hurts his re-election chances when Republicans look this insane. I think so too, which I'm happy about.
I thought that was
There's not much to say about.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. The hot and spicy redhead.
Marjorie Taylor Greene going off the rails here to try to spark what happened.
Is her name actually Wendy? Like, is the actual mascot named Wendy?
And with a lot more Republicans last time around. I mean, she's not very good at this, obviously. I'm talking about politics in general. Obviously, Republicans suck, but clearly the Republicans who really wanted to take down, oh my God, it's been so long, I forgot his name already, McCarthy. They obviously were organized enough in their political endeavor to get enough Republicans for it to actually matter, whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene does not have that same political acumen.
And also the Democrats don't all, voted overwhelmingly to save Johnson in this situation. Kevin McCarthy, I think, was so reviled and was such a self-dealer in that way. I mean, even theocrat Mike Johnson is doing a better job of working with Democrats on the other side, so he didn't piss them off in that way. But next time, please just let Republicans fight. That's what this is Trump's response. Here we go. There you go. Yeah, yours is better than mine.
I absolutely love Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, hold on. Excuse me. That's why their charity foundation is about adoption. Gotcha. They've named it after his adopted daughter. That's why they're... Oh, okay. Gotcha. Excuse me, Matt. I absolutely love Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's got spirit, she's got fight, and I believe she'll be around and on our side for a long time to come. However, right now Republicans have to be fighting the radical left Democrats and all the damage, capital D, they have done to our country, capital C.
She's got spirit, she's got fight, capitalized, and I believe she'll be around and on our side for a long time to come. However, right now, Republicans have to be fighting the radical left Democrats and all the damage they've done to our country with a majority of 1 shortly growing to 3 or 4. We're not in a position... Man, this is boring, Trump. This is actually very funny when he gets put in this situation.
Where he has to be a pragmatist?
Yeah.
Well, he says what I think is interesting is with a majority of 1 shortly growing to 3 or 4, we're not in a position of voting on a motion to vacate. At some point, we may very well be, but this is not the time. So Johnson has been trying his absolute hardest to bear hug Trump to be like, you can't touch me because the big man won't let you. And then Trump here is being like, yeah, I'm keeping my options open.
If we show disunity, which would be portrayed as chaos, it will negatively affect everything. Mike Johnson is a good man who is trying very hard.
He's trying. Is he
Sounds
succeeding?
like Trump is not draining the swamp. He's like, look, we need some of the swamp.
I like speakers of the House who don't get vacated.
We're actually floating in some of the swamp right now. It's to keep my barge afloat, so don't drain it yet.
They're just like his unruly children. Like the way that he has to deal with them, they're all just like sycophantic, unruly children for like,
You're a good girl.
disinterested dad.
Enthusiasm.
I mean, and that would make sense given his inconsistency on this front, because he's never actually dealt with children, least of all his own, one time in his entire life.
Yeah, can we have somebody go like spank them on the bottom or something?
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily.
Jesus. The Sam jump scare always gets me. All right, folks. Shifting gears here. I think we should probably listen to this.
First of all, our Pledge of Allegiance, which we say every day, we pledge allegiance to the republic for which we stand, right? The flag.
Yeah, so we're going to get this is the classic nonsensical argument that the United States is a republic, not a democracy. So, cool.
And the republic for which we stand. When Benjamin Franklin, after our Constitution was ratified, he talked about giving us a republic if we can keep it. And I think people should analyze those two little quotes and wonder why there were references to republic in both of them. In any event.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I'm about to yield to my friend, Ms. Meng from New York, but I'm inspired by the remarks of the gentleman from Wisconsin, especially.
Yeah, so just to be clear, yeah, that's correct, because it wasn't a monarchy. Right, and just to be clear, like, the only reason they want to play these, they want to play, like, these semantic, pedantic games is not because they actually care. It's because they fundamentally want, they fundamentally want to stop this concept of democracy, right? Because they fundamentally don't believe in democracy. So anything that they can do to kind of just memory hole that by saying things like, "Oh, it's not a democracy; it's a republic," whatever, dude.
About
just to just to be clear, like, if you want to have the conversation of how, like, the United States operates, that's fine. There are plenty of conversations to be had in terms of, like, how democratic is the United States. Fine, because I would probably be in agreement that the United States isn't that democratic. There's certainly a lot of work to be done, but that's not the conversation that these people want to have. Does that make sense?
The word republic, which of course comes from res publica, the public thing. He happened upon a subject that's of a lot of interest to me because I wrote a paper about it when I was in 6th grade, the Pledge of Allegiance. It was written by a radical Baptist minister named Francis Bellamy. I'm not sure if the gentleman's aware of that. On the 400th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the New World. And Reverend Bellamy, who was an abolitionist in Vermont, was concerned about the continuing salute of the Confederate battle flag in the southern states. And so he wanted to write a flag salute that would be unifying for the Union. And he wrote, "I pledge allegiance to my flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, with liberty and justice for all." And you notice what is not in there. He did not have under God. That was added in 1954.
Yep, to show to show, you know, the godless commies that this is a Christian nation.
Weeks after the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus Board of Education. But in any event, I'm not quite sure what the relevance is of the gentleman's invocation of the Republic or of Ben Franklin and the famous vignette about him saying, if you can keep it. Ben Franklin was, of course, a big supporter of immigration to the country, although he did display an anti-German bias in some of his writings. But I'll tell you a little story about Ben Franklin that might be of relevance to what the gentleman's talking about. Apparently, because I just did a tour in Philadelphia with the Ben Franklin people up there, and we learned this wonderful story. He made a loan to a friend of his for $100, and then he recorded in his diary that this gentleman he made a loan to for $100, Josiah, was always disappearing behind a tree or a building whenever Ben came along. And he finally caught up with him and he said, Josiah, you know, I loaned you $100, and I'm wondering, am I going to be able to get my principal back, or at least the interest? And Josiah said, well, Ben, look, the $100 is well invested somewhere else, so you don't have to worry about that. And Franklin said, well, what about the interest? He said, well, I forgot to tell you that it's against my religion to pay interest, so I can't pay you the interest. So Franklin said, you mean to tell me it's against your principal to pay me the interest, and it's against your interest to pay me the principal? And Josiah said, well, that's right. So Franklin said, well, I can see I'm not going to get either. Well, look, here our principles and our interests converge very much. The principles are set forth in the Constitution, which is we count everybody, and everybody is part of the census, and everybody is part of the reapportionment process. It's been like that since 1790. We don't need to start finger painting on the Constitution with this silly election year proposal. But it's also in our interests.
Raskin called him a radical Baptist. More accurately, Bellamy was a Christian Socialist Baptist. Huh. That's interesting.
Because, as my colleagues have said, this is a land that is built on immigration, except for the Native Americans who are already here and the people who were brought over as slaves. All of us are the descendants of immigrants to this country. Tom Paine said when he got to America in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution, he said, this land, if it lives up to its principles, will become an asylum to humanity. Not an insane asylum, mind you. An asylum to humanity, a place of refuge for people seeking freedom from religious, political, and economic oppression. That's who we are.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, when conservatives try to play semantic games around the word republic, they're just basically telling you that they fundamentally don't agree with democratic principles. That's what it is. So check this out, folks. This was happening in Tampa, Florida. And this person brings up an interesting point. When politicians say the Pentagon will provide solutions to climate crisis, this is what they mean. I wonder This should be the response to Nazis on the overpass. True. True. What the reason for this was. Because, like, who the heck is going to invade Tampa, Florida? Or is this like shooting a movie? Are they shooting a movie or is this like an actual exercise? I don't know. Sorry, I just saw this earlier. All right, shifting gears, folks. Missouri bill to ban all child marriages runs into resistance from House Republicans. Yeah, that's right. House Republicans in the state of Missouri have put opposition to a bill to ban all child marriages. A bipartisan bill that would outlaw all child marriages in Missouri has run into resistance from Republicans in the Missouri House that could prevent it from becoming law. Again, like conservatives, this never fails, right? Conservatives are either the groomers or the predators, or defending the groomers or the predators, the actual groomers or predators. And this is no exception. No exception to that to that unofficial universal law. That's it's just too spot on. The legislation filed by Senator Holly Thompson, a Scott City Republican, and Senator Senator Lauren Arthur, a Kansas City Democrat, would prohibit anyone from under 18 from obtaining a marriage license. Current law allows 16 and 17-year-olds to get married with parental consent. The GOP-controlled Senate approved the bill on a nearly unanimous vote of 31-1 last month, but the legislation has since stalled in a House committee with just more than a week left in this year's legislative session, which ends in May 17th. Supporters of the bill say the opposition illustrates some lawmakers' extreme and archaic views on marriage. Missouri had previously one of the nation's most lenient laws surrounding child marriage, and the state's current law has been criticized as a loophole that leaves thousands of teenagers open to abuse and exploitation. Quote, any explanation used to justify opposition is nothing more than, an excuse to protect predators. Yep, 100%. 100%. The committee's chair, Representative Jim Murphy, a St. Louis area Republican, said in an interview that there aren't enough votes within the committee to get it to the House floor. 7 of the 14 committee members opposed the legislation and disagree with raising the state's marriage age, which, red flag. It's on the going 16 to 18. Murphy, who supports the bill, said of the opposition, there's just enough members in that committee that don't think that's a good idea. Okay, one of those lawmakers is Representative Dean Shoyak, a Savannah Republican and vice chair of the committee. Van Shoyak said in an interview that he knows people who got married as minors, including a woman at roughly age 17. The couple, he said, is still madly in love with each other. Looking for a spouse? Well, the Republican Party apparently is doing their damnedest to make sure that 16 and 17-year-olds are able to get married. Why is the government getting involved in people's lives like this? Said Van Shoyak. What purpose do we have in deciding that a couple who are 16 or 17-year-olds, their parents say, you guys love each other, go ahead and get married. You have my permission. Why would we stop that? Ryder, who's running for lieutenant governor, pushed back in an interview. The government does tell people when they can get married because we do have an age limit right now. The fact that he feels that it's okay for a parent to make a decision for a child that is a lifetime decision is offensive. Yeah, because they are children. They're minors. The legislation is personal for Ryder, who was married at 15 to her 21-year-old boyfriend in 1984. Does that not I don't know, man. I don't know. Does that not Does that not spark a red flag? A year earlier, her sister at age 16 married her 39-year-old drug dealer. As a child that did get married, I would say I have a lot more insight to this issue than he does. Ryder remains optimistic that the bill would pass this year, saying she believes a majority of the House lawmakers would support it. She hopes she can attach the language as an amendment to another bill so it can reach the House floor. Well, after 5 years of work, wouldn't you want to get married? Alarm bells and red flags, right. That's a child labor joke. It is? It went right over my head, to be honest. How do a couple of 17-year-olds support themselves and potentially children? They should be in school. Right, and like, make no mistake, like, this law isn't like a Romeo and, it just went over my head. This isn't like a Romeo and Juliet law situation, you know what I mean? Where like, oh, you know, it's just like a couple years or whatever, or like two teenagers wanting to get married. Like, no, you know, the reality of things is that you dang well know that there are predators who do take advantage, as she said. That story didn't have the happiest ending. Ryder remains optimistic. Oh yeah, but even if the legislation can get past a committee vote, it could still run into some resistance from other Republicans in the House. One of them is Republican Representative Hardy Billington, a Poplar Bluff Republican. Billington, in an interview with the Star, claimed that the legislation could cause pregnant teenagers to have abortions when they can't get married, even though abortion is already banned in Missouri. First of all, what? Like, yes, because now child marriage is banned, it's going to automatically cause more abortions, and that's bad. Quote, my opinion is that if someone wants to get married at 17, they're going to have a baby and they cannot get married, and they're going to have a baby and cannot get married, then chances of abortion are extremely high. Okay. Ryder said she was surprised at the opposition of the bill, just a lingering of generational thought, you know, of what used to be normal. She said it's just not any longer. It's not that it's not just not normal, but it's harmful. It shows where their minds are. Yep, 100%. You know what leads to high amounts of abortion? Abstinence-only education. Right, which I'm sure that this individual is probably in favor of. Based on his comment. Lawmakers in 2018 set the state's minimum marriage age at 16 with the approval of one parent or guardian. The law came after the Star reveals that Missouri had among the nation's loosest marriage law for 15-year-olds. It previously allowed children even younger to marry with the judge's approval. What? Missouri does, however, ban marriage between a minor and anyone 21 or older. The state's statutory rape law also prohibits 21 and older from sexual intercourse with anyone under 17, but opponents of the current law say it still doesn't go far enough and have pushed for the bill from Reeder and Arthur. Before the 2018 law went into effect, 88% of minors who were married in Missouri were ages of 16 and 17. Freddie Race, the founder and executive of Unchained, at last a nonprofit seeking to end child marriage nationwide, previously told reporters. The law, Race said, had failed to protect 88% of the people it was intended to help. Arthur said that lawmakers need to think of young girls who have been affected by child marriage in Missouri, but aside from educating her colleagues about the importance of the legislation, she said voters need to elect different people to the General Assembly. I agree. I don't think getting married as a teenager... because of an unplanned pregnancy tends to lead to longer happy marriages. Right. This is like some twisted religious belief that you cannot have children out of wedlock, right? That's where this is coming from. It is a common sense position that children should not get married. It is an extreme view to think that children should be allowed to engage in that kind of contract. For Ryder, the opposition to her bill is rather interesting. This is about banning child marriage. Marriage is a decision that should be made by adults. It's as simple as that, right? And it's very weird that we have adults making comments saying like, well, I think, I think that 16 or 17-year-olds should get married. That's a little suspect, my dude. I don't know. That's a little weird. A little weird. I finally got the mosquito that was hunting me all week. Cheer. How's it going, A-Bond? Well, congratulations. If I had my my clapping track, I would give you a round of applause. A-Bond with the 130 biddies. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. Heat with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And my axe. All right, folks, shifting gears. Trump tries to woo oil executives. The former president's shakedown of oil executives may not have been illegal, but it was undeniably scandalous. One of the few ways in which Donald Trump has improved American politics is in making explicit what was once veiled in implication or euphemism. During the 2016 election, for example, he said what everyone knew, but no politician would acknowledge. The wealthy donors bought access and fealty with their contributions. I don't know. I think, yeah, I suppose. But it's not like he did it because he was going to fix anything about it. That's what's so, like, infuriating, that people, as this next comment, next paragraph says, that people have bought this just because he said, oh yeah, the system is rigged. These blunt statements have endeared him to supporters who see Trump as a rare figure willing to speak about how special interests and corporations conspire with politicians to screw over ordinary Americans. Right, but he is the special interests and corporations that are that conspire with politicians to screw ordinary Americans. He is that. And because he is a billionaire, they see him as immune to these pressures. No, he's the one making the pressures. He is the source of the issue. Anyways, wealthy enough to not be beholden in the same way as typical politicians. Yeah. Okie dokie. That brings us to a Washington Post article this morning. At Mar-a-Lago meeting in April, oil executives complained that despite pouring hundreds of millions into lobbying the government, the Biden administration has pursued stronger environmental regulation. Trump's response stunned several of the executives in the room overlooking the ocean. You're all wealthy enough, he said, that you should raise $1 billion to return me to the White House. The Post reports. In exchange, Trump vowed to roll back the current regulations and freeze future ones. He told them, given the savings, $1 billion would be a deal for them. Dude. This guy is literally like trying to mafia style do a mafia style shakedown to get the oil lobby and the oil industry to give him $1 billion to put him in the White House. Gata Naranja, welcome. What Trump is offering is entirely legal and absolutely corrupt, or to borrow a phrase, very legal and very uncool. Thanks to Trump's bluntness, there can be no hair splitting about what's going on here, and that's good for the public understanding. Trump is asking special interests for an eye-popping fee in exchange for giving them explicit favors. Trump and the oil companies might argue dubiously that their preferred regime would actually be better for consumers, but they are cutting the people out of the discussion entirely, subverting democracy. The deal gets done between Trump and the suits behind closed doors. A good reminder that Trump's claim to being an outsider is a sham, 100%. Do you like cats? Yes, I have two cats and one visitor. One visitor cat. If you stick around, I will show the stream Mr. Bob before he departs for his new adventure. American politics would be healthier if all politicians were so transparent about such deals. Though, of course, it would be better if they were not making such deals at all. Everyone might know that politicians are cutting deals for powerful interests, but they seldom know what exactly those deals are, so it's hard for them to take into account when voting. This is one reason the federal indictment of Senator Bob Menendez, a New Jersey Democrat, is so riveting. The alleged trades are all... The alleged trades are all laid out so plainly. Oh, it's adorable. Nora and Nova. Trump, however, said he's different. Many people took his frankness about how the system works to mean that he wouldn't act the same way as politicians he's excoriated. What this report shows is that he's no different. Trump was describing transactionalism, not critiquing it, and the idea that Donald Trump would ever object to transactionalism is absurd. He's a grandee in good standing of the leopards-eating fascist party. True. In fact, he's arguably worse. An ordinary politician might have approached the situation with a touch more finesse. First, he'd listen to the executive's concerns, then he'd lay out his agenda on energy. Finally, a campaign aide would hit the executives up for donations. That offers a little bit of deniability, which in turn gives the politician in office some wiggle room. It's not like donors can call him up and say, "You made an explicit promise to do this for me." That would be unseemly. If the old suits produce $1 billion and Trump wins, however, they can do exactly that. Since he's offering explicit quid pro quo, not only is he just beholden to special interests as anyone else here, he's going out of his way to make himself beholden, all in the service of returning to power. Do you have a sense of Trump's chance to win? I would say more like 50-50. It's a freaking coin flip. The issue is, like, when you have such a close election, generally speaking, it benefits the Republican candidate when you have elections this close. $50? I mean, it's not just me just making this up. The polls have been pretty consistent for months now that the election right now is, as it stands, a coin toss. The way Biden has been acting, I think it's likely that Trump will win. It's definitely possible. It's absolutely possible. And the fact that it's so close, it generally favors it gives an edge to the Republican candidate, especially when enthusiasm and willingness to go out and vote is lowered on the Democratic side. Nothing I can do in call, we will vote. Oh, nothing I can do in call. In Cali. Well, yeah, California is a pretty solid. California is pretty solidly blue. It's Jover, just vote locally. One final tawdry thing about Trump's offer is the implicit threat it contains. If they don't pass the hat to produce the cash, Trump might not pursue the same policies, as he notes, that would cost him dearly. Trump runs a real risk to his reputation as well as his election, but being quite so direct about by being quite so direct about what he's offering. One of the biggest scandals in American political history was the Teapot Dome, which involved federal officials trading favors to the oil business in exchange for cash. It's one reason that Warren Harding, the president at the time, has often been ranked among the very worst by historians. Trump has surpassed him in some very recent surveys thanks to his attempts to steal the 2020 election. Voters just don't like corruption very much, and Trump's offer here is not only plainly corrupt, but cuts to the center of the political persona he has cultivated. And people won't care. I can assure you that all these Trump supporters could know about this. He could make the most obvious post on Truth Social. He can make the announcement public about the obvious quid pro quo that he's engaging in here, and they'll just say that he's doing what is necessary, and as a businessman, this is just what he's gonna do. Like, these people are not gonna care. Period. Full stop. The polls will always be close because the polls not being close is boring and not marketable. No, I disagree. I think that there is some value in following what the trajectory and aggregate data that polls provide. Not like just the random outliers, but I mean like the trend of where things are going. I think it's valuable, and I don't think it's just for marketing purposes. I think it's true. I think it is true that the election is going to be close. I think it's accurately reflected. I think it's accurately reflected. A poll saying "I don't know" isn't terribly marketable. Trump supporters don't care because they specifically go out of their way to not care. Yep, that's true. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Trump said it himself. He could literally shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose votes. Yeah, why wouldn't it be close? Biden didn't win by a landslide. Now he's pissed off a bunch of those voters. Right. Personally, I think the election is going to be close. I think the election is going to be close. You're already starting right off the bat. You're already dealing with incredibly unpopular candidates, and I don't know. I don't see the the turnout to the 2024 election to be very high. And I just see it as very close. If Biden wins, it's not going to be by a lot. If Biden wins, it's going to be by the skin of his teeth. And quite frankly, the same for Trump. If Trump wins, it'll be a very close election. Trump could perform live human sacrifices on stage on national TV of his own supporters, and they would still cheer him on. Correct. They would just, in fact, we know what they would say. They would just say those are just rhinos. Those are just rhinos, right? They would say, it was just necessary to purge the rhinos. Yeah, or shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. Right. Returning back to Florida, no shade, no water, no breaks. DeSantis' new law threatens Florida outdoor worker health. Because, cool. In South Florida, one of the state's hottest regions, Maria Gonzalez works outdoors cleaning planes. Gonzalez spends her nights on the airport tarmac doing deep cleans of planes, scrubbing away feces, vomit, animal, and human hair, and often more. And more. Often, she said, airline staff turn off the plane's air conditioning to save gasoline and money, and let it sit on the asphalt, which radiates heat. Yeah, water's woke. That's right. Hay mucho calor, entonces uno sude. Yeah, uno sude y sude. El calor se duplica ahora porque empieza el verano. So, there's a lot of heat. There's too much heat. And one sweats. The heat is now doubled because it's summer has started. Especially with this unbearable summer in the coming days, it's crazy. Yep. In English, it gets so hot on the planes as she cleans that she can't stop sweating, and in the summer, the heat doubles. Yeah, essentially. Me siento muy mal y como yo me fuera a desmayar, explaining that her blood pressure drops and she often feels ill that she thinks she's going to faint. But in April, Ron DeSantis signed a law banning local municipalities from requiring employers to give heat breaks to outdoor workers such as Gonzalez. A move DeSantis himself admitted to the media was to slap back at one of Florida's most progressive municipalities, Miami-Dade County, one county south from where she works. Nice. Phenomenal leadership, huh? I used to work outside, but at least I had a hose. A plant nursery. Oh, that's cool. Only Miami-Dade County required employers to provide heat breaks to begin with. DeSantis' office did not respond to a request for comment. Still, his decision to get rid of home rule in a state that values small government and is one of the hottest states in the nation took some local officials aback and infuriated outdoor workers and their advocates in some of the hottest regions of the state. I mean, you know, I keep saying Republicans don't believe in small government. They want to be in every aspect of your life. They want to know. They want to police what bathroom. They want to They want to legislate what bathroom you go to. They want to legislate what you can do with your body. They want to legislate whether or not you can take water breaks. So yeah, cool. In a warming world, outdoor workers and organizations that protect them say heat and water breaks are a matter of life and death. These pro-heat stress bills are really about making sure no one is held accountable if something bad happens to workers. If they get sick or die in extreme heat, said Florida District Director for Miami-based Custodial Workers Union SEIU 32BJ Helen O'Brien. House Bill 433 states that cities or towns that don't have a right to require employers to states that cities or towns don't have a right to require employers to provide heat or shade breaks that the state or federal government doesn't already require. Absent a state Department of Worker Safety, Florida falls under federal OSHA jurisdictions, which cover most private sector workers in the state. However, neither the federal government nor Florida has a heat standard that requires breaks at certain temperatures or sun exposure. Advocates say the language is frustratingly vague. Federal Workplace Safety Agency OSHA instead requires breaks long enough for workers to recover from the heat. And while OSHA requires employers to provide water for workers, it doesn't require that employers give their workers time to drink the water. The vagaries of the policy have allowed some companies to push the limits until their workers feel the effects. and the threat of an OSHA investigation doesn't always strike fear into the hearts of management or owners. Just last summer, one farm worker, a 29-year-old Efrain Lopez Garcia, died from heat exposure just hours into his first day on the job at a Homestead fruit farm. This was July 6th, and the heat index hit 105 degrees that day, according to National Weather Service. The farm labor contractor that employed him, McNeil Labor Management, was found to have exposed workers to direct sunlight and failed to implement protections. Despite its role in Lopez Garcia's death, the company is now fighting the $27,655 in proposed penalties OSHA imposed on the business. That's the price for somebody dying. Gonzalez says their employer HHS Aviation, a cleaning company that contracts for Delta Airlines, also ignored federal workplace safety standards. HHS Aviation does, in theory, provide water, Gonzalez said, but not in practice. After multiple employees complained about a lack of water, which is against federal law, management purchased and placed a water cooler in the break room 2 months ago. However, Gonzalez added there's no water in it, and there never has been. This leaves Gonzalez and her coworkers thirsty, even dehydrated. She carries water to work but doesn't have a place to store it outside her locker. She can't carry it with her while cleaning or waiting for the plane to arrive. She can only drink it when she is on break near her locker. She said she was unaware of any other water sources available to the employees. HHS Aviation disputed Gonzalez's accounts of the heat and lack of water in her workplace, insisting that employees were allowed to refuse to board a plane and begin cleaning until it was fully cooled, and were trained to stop working when it was unsafe to do so. Additionally, in an email, the company said employees have access to clean drinking water since operations began in September of 2023. To HHS said break areas contained bottled water and hallways sported communal water fountains. HHS Aviation is committed to the health and safety of our team members, as they are their most valuable assets. We ensure all team members receive access to water, proper training, proper functioning tools and equipment, and designated rest periods. Yeah, bullshit. We comply with all OSHA regulations, TSA, Transportation Safety Administration, TSA program and directives, and applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Yeah, whatever. After USA Today's network, Florida called HHS Aviation and Delta Airlines about Gonzalez complaint, she said management finally filled the water cooler in the break room. Jesus. Delta Airlines declined for comment, though O'Brien says SEIU 32BJ has filed complaints against HHS Aviation on Gonzalez and her coworkers on Gonzalez and her coworkers' behalf. OSHA said other federal agencies can be slow to act, and Gonzalez and her union point to HB 433 as an example of the state not having workers' backs either, which is expected. Is expected with somebody like Ron DeSantis. While the federal government is working on adding a heat standard for workers, it won't be in place for at least 2 years, if not more, and will likely be killed if Trump wins the presidency. Worker advocates and heat experts say. Although Florida has hamstrung its municipalities with this law, O'Brien said laborers have other options to fight heat and negotiate better working conditions for themselves. The unionization, which is still completely within your right, regardless. Maybe we need to be bigger at the state level and hold employers accountable for mistreatment of workers. O'Brien said people are going to organize and are going to fight with whatever channels that they have. DeSantis signed HB 433 less than a year after an ocean heat wave killed off entire coral reefs around Florida. Such has never been recorded in recorded history, and that tipped over into human exposure too. Like, this was the story. This was during the time where we went over the story that the water was literally at hot tub levels. The water was at hot tub levels, temperature, I should say. That same year, nearly 2,000 died from heat exhaustion across the U.S. In Florida, 215 people died between 2010 and 2020 from heat, the University of Florida data shows. A 2023 report out of the National Conference of Citizenship found heat-related deaths in Florida shot up by 88% between 2019 and 2022. Climate change in a warming world is increasing the number of days of extreme heat humans are exposed to. According to NASA, the number of 2023, the summer of 2023 was the hottest on record. Spoiler alert, it's just going to keep getting worse. Perhaps surprisingly, the CDC found in 2024 that emergency visits for heat-related illness surged in 2023, especially among men and adults aged 18 to 64, or as University of Connecticut's Corey Stringer Institute CEO Douglas Casa noted, the demographic most likely to work outdoors. Casa studies the effect of heat on the human body. His heat lab has been recipient of more than a dozen Department of Defense grants in recent years, researching cooling strategies and physiological and clinical implications of heat stress. Heat exposure-related illness and deaths are almost certainly undercounted, as discrete heat exposure events and a lifetime of chronic dehydration can lead to shortened lifespans from kidney and heart disease. The effects of heat on outdoor workers may even be more serious than the current science shows. Laborers are between ages 30 to 70, and they don't have a 2-hour practice or game. They're doing 12-hour shifts, and they're on medication and have other problems, and may take care of them the least amount. Laborers have been kept out of the loop in the long term. Florida House Bill 433, which DeSantis signed into law April, prohibits the local government from requiring shade or water breaks from outdoor workers, or even giving preference to employers based on their heat exposure requirements. But only one county of 67, Miami-Dade, had such requirement already in place. The county had already passed an ordinance requiring employers to give outdoor workers 10-minute breaks in the shade for every 2 hours worked outside. Miami-Dade's heat officer, Jane Gilbert, is charged with designating mitigation strategies to help protect workers from the heat, some of which this law effectively killed. Still, Gilbert said in a statement her staff members have not given up. She cited her office work expanding tree canopy, designating cooling sites during heat season, installing nearly 2,000 air conditioning units in public housing, and provided heat safety training for personnel who work with homeless residents as examples of her continued dedication to combating heat. We will continue to do everything within our power to ensure the people of Miami-Dade County are safe from extreme heat. But in the absence of the stick, there still exists the carrot. Governments can pull all sorts of incentives in place to protect workers, such as fast-tracking permits, reducing taxes, or providing grants to companies that commit to protecting workers on the job. Yeah. So that's nice. I think we get the I think we get the gist. That's so cruel. A water cooler and no water. Yep, and they only decided to fill it when they found out that she went to the media. In conservative Collier County, 2 hours due west of Miami and subject to similar temperatures, Commissioner Bill McDaniel wondered why the law got rid of home rule on a subject that just one county in Florida passed restrictions on. It felt like an unnecessary overreach, he said, though he added they felt the government had no place between an employer and employee. I have to say two things. I don't like the mandates on local governments ever, McDaniel said, but I believe the onus is on the employer, not the government, to mandate things that good employers should be doing anyways. Nah, go F yourself. Do you think that, like, dude, if it was up to companies, you wouldn't even have freaking weekends, okay? You wouldn't even have lunch, okay? Let alone 15-minute breaks that are required, okay? So, just shut the F up. 2, I know that 99% of employers that employ people that work outside already take care of those people. They cherish their employees. If they don't, they won't have any left. Nah, go F yourself. That's clown logic, okay? That's libertarian logic. All right. We got one more, so I guess we should end on a W, huh? Vermont poised to become the first U.S. state to charge big oil for climate damage. Vermont is poised to pass a groundbreaking measure forcing major polluting companies to help pay for damages caused by the climate crisis, in a move being closely watched by other states, including New York and California. Modeled after the EPA's Superfund program, which forces companies to pay for toxic waste cleanup, the Climate Superfund bill would charge major fossil fuel companies doing business with the state billions of dollars for their past emissions. Nice. The measure would make Vermont the first U.S. state to hold fossil fuel companies liable for their planet-heating pollutions. Quote, if you contribute to the mess, you should play a role in cleaning it up, said Elena Mihaly, vice president of the Conservation Law Foundation's Vermont chapter, which is campaigning for the bill in an interview. If passed, the bill would face a steep uphill battle in the courts, but supporters say the first of its kind legislation could be a model for the rest of the country. I hope so. And 4 other states are weighing similar initiatives. Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont and Chris Von Hollen of Maryland also attempted to include a federal version of the infrastructure bill passed in 2022. Though it was omitted from the final draft, the measure would have raised $500 billion. I could take a guess as to who was opposed to that. Advocates for Vermont, the Vermont bill notched a major win on Friday when the state's House of Representatives advanced the measure with a preliminary vote of 100 to 33. Enough support to overcome a potential veto by the state's Republican governor, Phil Scott. On Monday, the bill passed its House in a 94 to 38 vote. Within the next week, it will receive a final vote in the Senate, where it received preliminary approval on a 26 to 3 vote last month. It will then head to the governor's desk for final approval. If he shoots it down, the supporters are confident that they have the votes to override a veto. Nice. Climate impacts are mounting everywhere, and they're coming with a price tag, said Jamie Head, director of Fossil Free Media, which is campaigning in support of the Climate Superfund legislation across the U.S. Of course, we're going to see the efforts to force companies responsible for the disaster to pick up the bill. Vermont is known for its temperate summers, but last July, catastrophic floods pummeled the state. Roads became rivers, bridges decimated, and 2 people were killed in the rushing waters. It was devastating, said Mihaly. She is originally from California, a state that has seen widespread devastation from wildfires and other climate-related disasters. I had before considered Vermont a haven, a safe choice from climate perspective. Last summer was a wake-up call. The floods wreaked havoc and more than $1 billion in damages just 11 years after Tropical Storm Irene devastated nearly all of Vermont. As the climate crisis persists, research shows that future flooding events could be even more devastating and costly. The legislation would compel Vermont State Treasurer Mike Fichak, who supports the effort, to set a fund for climate damages. To do so, he would be required to determine how much money to collect to pay for climate-related impacts to Vermont's public health, biodiversity, economic development, and other damages. The bill text does not include a specific figure to be collected, but an initial rough estimate from the Vermont Public Interest Research Group suggested the figure could be as much as $2.5 billion. The state would also have to work with scientists to figure out how much of that damage is attributed to climate change. Then officials would calculate how much each major oil and gas company within the state contributed to it based on the emissions from their products between 1995 and 2024. To do so, they would use the Carbon Majors database and account of the world's largest polluters' contribution to the climate crisis. The money collected would then fund projects to improve climate adaptation and resilience, as determined by the state's Agency of Natural Resource. If passed, the measure could serve as a model for the rest of the country interested in climate accountability. As interest in climate accountability is growing, and as New York, California, Maryland, and Massachusetts weigh similar initiatives. New York's measure, which would collect $30 billion, sailed through the state Senate this week after being omitted from the state's budget earlier this year. Advocates are now hoping for a full state assembly vote before the session ends on June 6. While New Yorkers brace for the rising costs of impacts of climate change, fossil fuel profiteers are reaping record profits, said Eric Weltman, senior New York organizer with the environmental group Food and Water Watch. It's time for these big oil corporations to pay to clean up their mess. Meanwhile, the California measure will face a challenging vote in a Senate committee next week. Massachusetts and Maryland's measures have been stalled. All 5 states are considering climate superfund bills have also filed lawsuits against big oil for allegedly attempting to sow doubt about the climate crisis despite long-standing knowledge of the dangers of burning fossil fuels. But unlike the lawsuits, the legislative proposal do not require proof that proof of that history of deception. This bill is not about punishing big oil for deceiving the public, said Mahaley. Spreading the knowledge of that deception, however, has helped build support for the measure. During a state Senate committee vote on the bill in March, for instance, the Republican Senator Robert Norris said he was initially hesitant about the bill, but chose to support it after learning about the fossil fuel industry's misinformation campaigns. Quote, I was not aware the large companies knew about this in the 50s and 60s and so forth and still did nothing to address this. Jennifer Rushlow, the dean of Maverick Lloyd School for Environment at Vermont Law and Graduate School, noted that the lawsuits have often run into roadblocks when the judge questions whether or not the litigation should be the purview of the legislators rather than the courts. And that way, the Climate Superfund bill, a well-designed response to the challenges many climate lawsuits have faced, said Rushlow, who has campaigned for this bill. Unless you include an anti-price gouging clause, it would be moot. Fossil fuel companies will use it as an excuse to skyrocket oil prices. Maybe so. Maybe so. The bills enjoy widespread support from voters, said Cassie DePaola, communications director at Fossil Free Media. All surveys conducted by her organization and polling from Data for Progress found that 70% of likely California voters would support a climate superfund bill, while 66% of all likely U.S. voters would support a measure, as would 89% of Democrats. If the Vermont bill becomes law, fossil fuel interests are expected to challenge it in the state's courts. The bill's detractors have noticed. We're a mosquito compared to a giant, said Vermont Senator Randy Brock, a Republican who voted against the bill, said on the Senate floor. ExxonMobil alone has annual sales of $344 billion, and Vermont has an annual budget of $8.5 billion. Governor Scott has not said whether he would veto the measure, but has voiced concerns about the state facing steep litigation costs. The American Petroleum Institute, the largest oil and gas lobby group in the U.S., sent a letter to Vermont opposing the bill, claiming it retroactively imposes costs and liabilities on prior activities that were legal and violate equal protection and due process rights by holding the companies responsible for actions of society at large. Nah, go F yourselves. But Rushlow said that to avoid damaging litigation, lawmakers have worked to write a good, solid law where the legislature makes clear what they want other branches of government to do. Mahaley said supporters had worked to build a robust record to demonstrate that there's a rational basis for this law, adding that the Vermont Attorney General Charity Clark supported the bill and her office is ready to proudly defend this law. Based. So we'll see how this turns out, but definitely a good step in the right direction. If this sticks, I hope that more states, as mentioned earlier, follow suit. All right, folks. I gotta get going. Let me bring in Bob, and we can all say goodbye. Give me 1 second, folks. Yeah, holding companies responsible for the actions of society at large. Such a freaking clown logic. Unbelievable. Give me 1 second. Correct. If we had more options, I'd certainly would use more options. Everybody, this is Mr. Bob. As soon as the say hello, Mr. Bob. I wish I could like show you how loud he's purring. Look at him. Why a guest? Because he is going to live. He's adopted. He's going to. There he is. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He's going to live in his new adopted home. On Saturday, so he's just a temporary guest. He's got to look like what the F human. Yeah, I probably woke him up from his nap when I called him. So yeah, look at him. Did you fall asleep? Well, there he is. Did you fall asleep? Yeah, I sort of fostered him. He came to our house after a storm, and he just popped out in our front yard. And unfortunately, the other two cats, aren't having it. It's already difficult with the two cats that we have. So we found somebody who is a cat person and who is willing to help Bob out here since he's not chipped. No one seems to claim him. Yeah. He's just content. Yes, he is. Did you? Sure. I think he's just falling asleep. I can't believe this. Bye, Bob. Indeed. All right. Say goodbye, Bob. Goodbye, everybody. You're off to a whole new adventure. He's so cute. He literally follows you everywhere as soon as you call him. Yes, we'll definitely miss you. All right, folks. I gotta get going. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. Keep liking the stream on the YouTube. Subscribe there. Join us on the Discord. We do movie nights once a month. Excuse me. And you can also join the nice and cozy community. If you want to support the channel, consider checking out the merch store, !merch. He's big enough that it looks like he had a diet of squirrels and birds. Well, who knows? He's a little guy, by the way. He's a kitty, so he might be a big cat. He might be a chonky boy when he grows up. Oh. All right, folks, I gotta get going. Thank you all. I appreciate it. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one, Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Take care. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.